in one of these shots, this arm is wearing handcuff. So
S Express.
In another shot, this hand is on a motorcycle helmet.
That is bizarrely not sexual to me.
But I'm holding hands with someone on top
we're
of
alive.
Hey! And this is how it usually starts. Hey, welcome to another episode of How Did You Get There? Where it's a show about thoughts, ideas, opinions, and beliefs, where we intend to be critical of those things and not necessarily the people who hold them.
The opinions that are about to be expressed are expressed by the panel, and so no one else is liable or should be held accountable for the opinions we express. Especially these two guys, because we're kind of in charge of this. So if it goes wrong, talk to us.
Yeah, blame us.
Blame us, not Jess. Jess FM, Jess' lovely wife, Sarah.
Anybody whose name rhymes with Jess.
That's right.
Like, just, it's
Best,
not them, it's
best,
us.
It's not him.
Yeah, so we have an upcoming event.
Here in Lethbridge.
Here in Lethbridge. That is, I think, going to be of great interest. If you're listening internationally, it might be a little short to get tickets, unless you really want to be tickets to the event. Sure, unless are you also streaming? No, not this year. They're not streaming this year, so the ticket to the event is going to be quite affordable. But the plane ticket to get you here for the day, going to be short notice.
Yeah.
So from Wordbridge, we have
Mandy Michelle.
And I'm Charles James.
Excellent. Is that your real name, or are you lying to us?
No,
they're both.
Those are pen names.
You don't have to give away your secret identity.
You need not dox yourself today.
Yeah.
No, my real name's Charlie Kirkby, and I live and work here in Lethbridge. I'm a medical physicist. I work down at the cancer center here in town. But one of my hobbies is I'm a writer, and I have a number of books under the name Charles James. So I love writing science fiction, and but my last name is Kirkby, which is often misspelled Kirby. And so I decided I would go with a pen name so that it would be a little easier if people ever wanted to look me up.
I wonder if it's autocorrect, because Kirby's a very brand name vacuum.
Quite possibly.
I just wondered, maybe people not besmirching you. They're just like, yeah, it's Charles Kirby.
Well, there's also a Charlie Kirk out there, which I do not really want to be affiliated with. So,
fair?
Yeah, so...
fair comment.
Yeah, so...
Face full of gum.
So, Charles James, if you're looking for some
I already have a question. Is the K?
The K is the Kirkby.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. You're
and just in case there's another Charles James out there, you want to be able to set yourself apart.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Is choosing a pen name in authorship anything like choosing a stage name in the Actors Guild? Do
you mean in the sense that you want something unique that?
Yeah, and also you can't have one that somebody else has.
Yeah. No, I think you can have something that I don't have to register my pen name. But yeah, you do generally want something unique so that when people do a search for you, they're going to find your books and not, 10 other Charles
My
Jameses
brain just went totally the other way, right? Just call yourself Stephen King, see how sales go. I mean, it doesn't seem fair, but there it is. Oh, how we doing?
Hey, Mandy, you got...
I'm too far over. Oh.
You still exist.
I still exist.
I'm this is actually my third year on the board for the Wordbridge Writers Conference. I love writing. I love our Lethbridge writing community. I'm at Analog a lot. Analog Books.
Shout out to Analog Books just around the corner.
And they will be here at Wordbridge this year. They wanted to get involved in it as well. We can talk about that too. I write romance novels, and I have a few published with a smaller publisher in New York, and but I'm still out there submitting to the big leagues.
I hear tell someone might have just submitted.
Yeah.
They might have some nerves.
I just submitted a book yesterday to a publisher in London, and trying keep it worldwide there.
Yep.
And I don't know. It's a romantic comedy. I was trying to get into romantic comedy. I don't know how funny I am. I think I'm funny, but I don't know if other people think I'm funny. So we'll see.
Thanks.
That just reminds me of there's this scene in Good Morning Vietnam where not Robin Williams, but the other character is like, I know in my heart that I am funny.
The Michael Shea.
Yep. Oh. Awesome. So you're expecting to get picked up on your very first submission?
No, I have a whole list of rejections. Like,
you have to wait.
Real writers have a big list of rejections.
I understand that very famous writers have had to wait for like at least 7. That was a big stretch.
7, yeah.
So we will not mention said writer because
She's
reasons.
notorious.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, famous and infamous at the same time.
Yeah.
So is it a long wait, or do they tell you no for like right away?
You get 12 weeks is what they say, but usually it's sooner. But I don't know. I haven't submitted in a long time because I've been working with a company and I had an editor and it was lovely. But now like the ideas never stop. It's just trying to find people to get the books out there and find readers. And I think that's like the hardest part about being a writer is the marketing, and finding that. And so that's why we do conferences like Wordbridge, because you not only get to, talk to the experts, we have editors, publishers, agents, we have the whole thing, but you get to kind of like mingle with other people that do what you do. Because writing is so isolating, you're sitting behind a laptop most of the time. So when you and we're also in a writing group, and 100% recommend being in a writing group. We've been in the River Bottom Writers here in Lethbridge for, I've been in there for 13 years, right from the second week. But it's a kind of a nice built-in support system, because you can, I get to go there every week and say, I submitted a new book, and then 12 weeks later, I got a rejection letter, but you have people to commiserate with,
and it's a community of support.
Yeah, they understand because they also got the rejection letter. Or you have people that haven't written before, haven't submitted before. Now you can talk to someone that has, and then what's the process? Writing blurbs, you have to, when you submit, it took me an hour to fill out the form. They want a bio. Professional bio, they want the blurb, they want the page long, and then they want the entire manuscript and, genres, and they want all the details when you submit. So you can't wait till the last minute on these things. Although I waited till 2 days before the deadline.
That's not the last minute.
I know, I was quite proud.
That's two full days to change your mind.
Yeah, I was like, I think I want to do it. I want to get it done. But yeah.
So this is the kind of, these are the kinds of, in words of inspiration or support, that somebody coming out on April 12th
and 13th
would get?
Absolutely. We have this year, and I'm excited this year, we have 2 rooms. We're at Casa downtown. So this started out really small, just at the library in the basement. Mm-hmm. And then now we've moved to Casa last year, and we have the 2 rooms. The community room is all panels and workshops. So that gives you a chance to actually interact with the instructor, the writer, publisher, and ask questions. We have how to take critical feedback, learning about poetry.
Oh, where do I sign up?
Yeah.
Not the poetry part.
How to take critical feedback?
Fantasy, all the kind of subject matter.
Poetics.
Yeah.
They hit that one right first thing.
Ouch.
Right in the fields.
Right in the fields.
Yeah. How to take critical feedback, yeah. So, and that's a workshop, so you're going to be able to talk with the presenter. You don't just sit there and listen. You get to learn, interact, ask questions. We have the 2 rooms, and then the meeting room will be all presentations. And those ones you learn so much in the presentations, like last year. And here's me on the board sitting there taking notes, because every time you go to these things, you learn new things. Like, you can't not learn new things. Double negative for you. And then this year, what's super exciting, we have a room upstairs that is a social room. So we'll have all the coffee, tea, snacks up there, and we're going to have board games and just tables to sit and talk with new people you meet. Like, you make friends, there might be other presenters up there that you can talk and meet. And then, I can't brag about this enough. We have a Blue Pencil Cafe, which is, we had it open so people could submit the first 3 pages of their manuscript to a professional editor for free. And they would read it over and then meet with you at the conference and go over their corrections. Like, if you've tried to hire an editor, they're not cheap. Mm-hmm. And so to get a little taste of, what it's like to get criticism from an editor, or this is what needs to be changed, this is what I liked.
And often from just a few pages, like a professional editor can tell you what stage you're at, like what you should be focusing on, what you should be working on. They can tell you, is this manuscript nearly ready for publication and just needs some polish, or, would you benefit from, taking some classes and that kind of thing. So you get that kind of, there's that large scale feedback, which is so much more than just the grammatical, you spelled this word wrong and that kind of thing. It's a lot more. They'll look at it from a developmental side of things, and like, how are you setting up the story, and in your first few pages, are you hitting the right notes for the genre that you're trying to, that you want to market this story to? If it's a book about dragons, usually you want to show a dragon, on that first page or two, so that someone reading it is going to be confident that, okay, I've picked up the right book.
Don't tell Anne McCaffrey.
There's always exceptions to these things.
Cover art's all that.
Yeah, for sure.
Just saying, there are maybe loopholes and good ones. So, just quickly, you mentioned River Bottom writers.
Yeah.
Are there other groups in town? Do you know?
Yes, there's the Alexander Writing Society.
I think.
Yeah, they meet at Analog twice a month, and then they have a live open mic. At the end of the month, I think the last Thursday. And then River Bottom Writers meets at Lethbridge Polytechnic on Thursday night, 7 to 9, in the Richardson Oilseed Room. And we've been meeting for 13 years. And Alexandra, I believe, is from Calgary, and then they have a Lethbridge offshoot now. Yeah. And I believe the Lethbridge Public Library hosts a couple different writing groups that... you'd have to contact them, because I'm not involved in them, so I don't want to say anything. But I think they have 2 different.
If you want more information about the other writing groups, if for some reason this one doesn't appeal to you, if there are lots of resources.
Oh yeah, but it's nice because, and then of course there's like word on the street that the library has every year. That's another meeting of minds and that with writers and writing groups. So that's great. But this conference too, on the Blue Pencil, where you meet with the editor, we also have 2 live action slush piles, which is like they're kind of highlights at writing conventions. You submit your first page, and they'll live in front of everyone there. They read your page. And then they have a panel of publishers, experts, editors, and they'll raise their hand when they would have put down the page.
When they would have stopped.
When they would have said no. Yeah.
So it's almost like a game show. Like it's
like Gong Show, right?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
You need to get that.
Yeah, like and you can submit anonymously, right? You don't have to tell. So if the editors all put up their hand after the first sentence or two, you can kind of sit there in the audience and look around and like, who submitted that?
Yeah.
but
just remember, don't go pick it up afterwards.
Yeah, but that's one of those things that gives you that really valuable feedback as a writer, because, you know, if you know that all of it, you know, like this is the reason why they're, you know, like I'm never getting picked up when I submit to publishers or whatnot, it's because, you know, I'm breaking a bunch of rules, or I've got a big info dump in the beginning. There's all sorts of things like that, you know, they'll be able to identify, and often they can identify it pretty quickly.
All of my books start with, "It was a dark and stormy Daniels."
Hilariously, our theme this year is "It's a dark and stormy night."
There's a contest, isn't there?
There was, yeah. I think it just ended Friday, but it was a drabble, write 100 words, a whole story in 100 words. Yep. And we were just actually judging them. I read the top 7 already and voted. But our top 3 were going to get prizes, because we have sponsors that donate prizes too. So we had that. Yeah, and what else did we do? The blue note or blue pencil, and we had the drabble. Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's a fun conference. Not even this year, but it's every year. So if you miss blue pencil this year, get writing, and then, you know, you can submit it again next year, but it's all free with your ticket.
You're going to tell us why it's called blue pencil?
I get it. Can I guess?
It should be red pen.
Can I guess though?
Because I think I know. I believe I know the answer.
I'm
Go
going
ahead.
with like blue light special, right? Because it's a lunch thing.
Blue plate.
Yeah.
Right? And then pencil because we're making corrections, and pencil because you can erase them.
It comes from lithography. Right, so in printing, in more modern printing, it doesn't pick up the blue. The blue vanishes.
So you can write on it.
So you can write on it and make copies, and the copies won't have the blue. Historically, we got better copiers now than when that came from, but that's why a lot of editors would use a blue pencil, so that copy readers could go in and see those changes. But if anything got missed, it didn't show up in the final publication that there was an edit note.
That I was not aware of that at all. I had always assumed that the idea was that we didn't want it to be the red pen, editing process, because like I think there's been this, you know, this big movement on how, like, when you're marking in red, it looks like blood, and so many people have grown up with these negative experiences from teachers that, you know, like they spend, you know, like they pour out their soul onto the paper, and then some, you know, teacher looks at it really quickly and, you know, this is wrong, and you get all of this negative feedback. And so, yeah, like I think people have negative feelings associated with that. So, and the point that, you know, you try to get, you know, from these editors is it's not a, you know, critique of everything that you've done wrong. Often with a good editor, they'll also show you what you are doing right. And they give you like positive encouragement, and you can hear, okay, you know, like this is like, you know, here's a section where your voice as an author is really coming out. And, you know, a lot of beginning writers may not be able to identify that for themselves. And so, you know, and then they can get that feedback and they can learn, okay, this is what I need to do more of.
Like there would be a note in there that says, see what you did here, 3rd paragraph, chapter 2. This was amazing. If you could apply this technique to the rest of that chapter, that would be even better.
Yeah.
Something like that. Right?
Exactly. Constructive.
I'm about the
criticism.
yes and criticism, right? Like weirdly, in the theater, we do one-act play festivals. So it's the same sort of thing where I'm giving you an artistic, very subjective thing, and now please evaluate that. Right. And that's always right. Like that's basically what you're asking your publisher to do is, this is my very subjective personal thing. Do you like it?
Yeah.
Please say you like it.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely. I mean, you know, when a lot of people are writing, or, you know, anything artistic that you've created or whatnot, there's a little piece of you that goes into it, and it can be a very intimidating process to, you know, put that out into the world and ask for feedback and get that feedback, particularly if, you know, if you're doing it online or that kind of thing where, you know, like there's no consequences for someone to give, you know, like
to be really terrible.
Really horrible negative feedback. And so when you have an environment like this where, you know, you have the opportunity to get that feedback from someone who's a professional and they have some credentials in the field, and you know, and you're there face to face, so you know you have that human contact, and you know they can't, you know, they're going to be have a reasonable level of civility in
They
most
might look at
cases.
you and say, that really sucks.
Yeah.
Hey, but this is how we can make it better, right? Like, to me, it's the yes and approach that seems to be going on here. Like, yeah, you did that. And this is what makes it better.
It
right?
strikes me as odd, though, that, that written feedback from authors could be prone to being misconstrued in tone. Just the irony there is just palpable.
Good catch. Good catch.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think that there's a lot of, it's one of those nice pieces of artistic development where you're not out there trying to be better than somebody, other than being better than you. Today me, I want today me to be just a little bit better than yesterday me, and everybody else wants that for you too, because it doesn't cost them anything for you to get better.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? We're not talking about working in a writer's room for a weekly television series.
Yeah.
That's a different ballpark.
Yeah.
It's still writing, but it's that's a little more cutthroat because you lose your job if you're not better than 5 other people.
Local author Danica Stone, she was a speaker last year. She always says there's room for everyone to be successful, and that's why she's so supportive of up and coming writers, because she has her audience. We all have our own audience, so it doesn't hurt anyone for there to be more. And so I love how she's so positive that way. And that's the kind of thing that you get at Wordbridge, because when you're kind of up and coming, you're like, well, there's already this many, but there's room for so many more, because new authors keep trending and going viral on TikTok, and there's room for everybody with things like this. So.
That's a really good point, especially like, as you say, you write romance, you're writing science fiction, right? These aren't, empty genres waiting to be filled, right? Yeah. Like, I have a rich, full basement full of all of the Heinlein, like juveniles, all of it, right? But guess what? That didn't stop Asimov. That didn't stop, right?
Right.
It doesn't. And typically the person that would read this would read more anyway, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're not, the Harlequin romance didn't corner the market, right? Like, the Danielle Steeles of the world, right?
Yeah, with indie publishing now too, there's people are having the chance to get their books out there that don't get accepted by traditional publishing. And so we had two pre-events leading up to Wordbridge, and we had Elizabeth Trofa-Mankoff. She'll be here too. She writes sci-fi, romance, like all kinds of cool books.
To me.
Yeah. But she self-published. So, and she's at the Lethbridge Comic Expo. Like, she's really good at getting out there. And so, yeah, she'll be sharing her expertise on investing in yourself and, with book launches and things like that. But, the people in these genres are, like, voracious readers. Like, romance readers, I've noticed in a lot of the groups, like, they'll read a book a day, some of them. And so you can't, my favorite author's got 10 books. Well, that's not even going to last you 2 weeks. Yeah. So there's always room for more. People, I like books like this. I like billionaires. I like motorcycle clubs. I like, there's anything.
Yeah.
And so whatever you write, there's always an audience for it, which is really cool. And same with sci-fi. Like, sci-fi readers love sci-fi and they want more. So I always feel like it's an endless market for it.
I'm just going to pause just a little early.
Okay.
And let the universe know you're watching. How did you get there? With your hosts, Jeff and Stephen, and their guests, Charles James. And
Mandy Michelle.
Mandy Michelle. It's Michelle. Got it. Is that like normally your middle name? And you just, okay. Sorry,
but it's great. The alliteration sells, right? Alliteration always adds something else that starts with A.
If your first name is longer than your last name and you stack it, helps sells the book. If you put a yellow cover on it, helps sells the book.
Yeah, yellow. Yellow is a big one.
I love yellow.
Yep.
I would buy a book just because it was yellow. I mean, I bought a car because it was yellow. I bought a shirt because it was yellow.
Hat that you got sent back from the States.
Yeah, I left a hat in the States one time in Jazz restaurant in Kansas City, Missouri. There was a storm, and I had taken my hat off because I was in a restaurant, as one does or should does.
Unless you're J.D. Vance in a mess hall. Never mind, sorry.
And then we left, and we ducked out and ducked between two storms and got to the next place. And by the time that we were far enough away, I went, "Oh, I left my hat there." So I phoned them, and they said, "Yeah, we can send it to you." And they mailed it back home. Weird.
Not even COD.
But it was yellow. So
A yellow hat.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of a book about a man with a yellow hat. And
Big
he
yellow
had
hat.
a very curious monkey.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
But now I'm off the leash. Just saying.
So you write romance. What do you read?
I read I read romance, and then I alternate to a psychological thriller. I have to have my murder in, and then I go back to romance, because then to me it keeps them both fresh. I don't just read one thing continually. But
Have you tried writing a psychological romance?
you know what? They're out there. I have actually a couple authors that I read that do write stuff like that. She's a serial killer, but it's also a romance. Yeah, there's some.
Gotta love your job.
Yeah, there's some good ones.
Ouch.
Yeah, but you have to read what you write, because you have to know what's trendy, what's in, so that you can jump ahead to the next trend. But this is what's in, so I have to write something else.
Yeah. And you do?
Yeah, no, I do read a lot of science fiction. Maybe a lot more on the military science fiction side of things, as opposed to the hard science fiction. So, like, spaceships, space marines,
Starship Troopers.
Yeah, that exactly.
But I already pulled the Heinlein card. I don't know where else I can go. I don't know where else to go.
Yeah, and currently I'm reading some World War II stuff by Craig DeLuey. What was it? Hell's Eden, I think, is his current one that's out. He's an author up in Calgary, and he was a
keynote 2 years ago.
Yeah. So really good stuff. I try to read as much as I can. I mean, it's hard. I listen to a lot of audiobooks and stuff like that as I'm commuting. And
that was going to be a question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I find listening it's nice because it allows you to, you can do busy work, right? You can clean, do the laundry, like that kind of thing, and just kind of put it on in the background, or put your headphones on, and or if you've got a long drive, commuting to Calgary, or not commuting, but going to Calgary or something like that, you can listen to an audiobook for a couple of hours, and it helps to pass the time, and you can kind of escape a little bit into this fictional world. Yeah,
cool, neat.
Yeah, I read occasionally. Right now, mostly what I read is journals. That's a different problem. But I mostly read science fiction-y stuff. Although I read a ton of nonfiction. I just lots about psychology and lots about humor at the moment. So, but I'll read just about anything. I will read the.
There it is. Are we reading the shampoo bottle in the bathroom?
Yeah,
we're readers. Right?
Well, I think that, there's one fellow in our writing group, and he always likes to emphasize this idea that a good story is a good story, and so like people go to like specific genres for the tropes, right? Like, usually there's something specific that they like, to see, like in romance, they like to see two people getting together, and in science fiction, they're usually coming because they like the ideas of, I want to read a story about space and laser guns and that kind of thing. But really, a good story is good and will have you hooked regardless of the genre. That's why I can read World War II historical fiction, or I can read like thrillers, and I love the Gray Man books. It's like an action thriller, but they are just like, they're good stories. And if you have the sort of the core elements of a good suspenseful story where you just want to find out what happens next, that tends to transcend the genre specific things.
Well, and I find that's exactly why I like some of the authors that I do like, is the story they tell. So I read like math books, but they're like popular math books. They're nonfiction. Like Matt Parker is one of my favorite authors / mathematicians / YouTube phenomenons. Yeah. But just the way he tells the story of the weird little mathematical quirk he's going to spend a chapter on is it makes you want to read the chapter. You actually want to care about magic squares, and if you square the numbers in a magic square, can you still have one of those things where the rows and the columns and the diagonals all each add up to the same number? I was like, and you by the end of the chapter, you want to care, and you laugh with him that he's done the thing, but he's done it badly. Right?
Yeah.
Well, there's a book by Leonard. I'm probably going to butcher his last name. Mladenov, called The Random Walk. And it's really about statistics and how randomness rules our
Monte
lives.
Carlo rules.
Yeah, and it's a very, very similar kind of thing. He's able to take these kind of like higher level concepts, and he'll break it down into like real world applications. So I remember him talking about, for example, the prosecutor's fallacy, and this thing that happened in the O.J. Simpson trial, for anyone who remembers that back in the 90s, and
so just like 10 or 15 years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. And he went through this fallacy and how they rejected in the trial that I think the prosecution tried to argue that there was a lot of evidence that he was abusive towards his wife, and the defense argued, well, that has no bearing on whether or not he murdered his wife, and they threw out some statistical numbers saying that there's lots of women that are abused, very few of them are ever murdered, right? But the relevant statistics was the fact that if a woman has been murdered and she has an abusive partner, chances are very high that the abusive partner was the person who did it. Mm-hmm. That was the relevant one, but unfortunately that didn't come to light until after the trial. So, and anyways, I'm totally digressing away from
you went right in.
He warned you.
but it's I think it's a very relevant story that introduces this kind of an abstract concept in mathematics, but gives it like a very real, tangible notion
where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
This is how that affects you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you could have told the exact same thing, and people would have tuned out in 5 seconds. But you tell the good story,
people tuned in.
Yeah.
It's true.
Exactly.
It's true. You read it. It worked. So you got more events coming up on. So is that just day one you've told us about so far?
Well,
So day one, which is April 12th.
Day one, which is April 12th, is doors open 9:30. It goes right to 6:30. We have the keynote speaker at 5.
And there's snacks, you guys.
Yeah.
Stay all day.
Yeah.
And our keynote speaker
is Jennifer Delisle. She's from Edmonton. She's a poet, essayist, memoirist.
Tough, that'd be tough.
Yeah. And she's written 3 books. She's award-winning author from Edmonton. We try to keep it Alberta local.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's mostly like we try Lethbridge and Calgary. There's a convention in Calgary called When Words Collide, and it's the big writing convention in Alberta. But when this conference was designed was, we have writers here. Why don't we have a conference here? So that was sort of the idea behind it. And so we can bring people down here instead of always going up to Calgary.
Nice.
Yeah. So, day 2.
You listening, Calgary? Come down.
Yeah, come down.
It's a nice drive.
Yeah. And that's actually
And you
another
can listen
reason.
to an audio book on your way down.
And full circle. Perfect.
Yeah. This started in, I believe it was January, February. They tried to do like a winter conference, but then we wanted to bring in more guests, so we kept moving it more into spring so that they could safely commute down here. So now we're in the middle of April.
Our initial phrase was we write despite frostbite.
But then we were standing outside of the library waiting to get in, and it was like -30, and we're like, why are we doing this? We could be at home writing, but we could be home. But so this now, it's nice to have it in the spring, because now we can get more speakers, coming in from Calgary.
Well, and just the germination of ideas and the whole
new life.
Yeah.
Primavera.
First greens, yeah.
So we have analog books. Great local bookstore. They have cats.
I used that cat in the Shakespeare commercial.
Charlie brought his books to, actually it was a Wordbridge pre-event, and we had an Ask the Author panel, and he had a box of his books, and the cats jumped right in.
They crawl right in there.
Cardboard box.
Yeah.
So we got great pictures.
It's because
from
they
that.
love the fiction.
Yeah, they were there for the books and nap.
Cats in space travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would like to shout out to Analog Books.
Yes.
They are so supportive of local authors.
Penny and Scott, you rock.
Yeah. And they'll be there this year. She actually talked to me and she said, we want to be more involved in this conference. And so they're going to be the first panel on Sunday, April 13th, in the community room, talking about working with bookstores. What do you do when you're a local author and you have a book? Do you just walk in with your unedited manuscript and say to Penny, put this on the shelf? Apparently that's happened to her. So she is going to tell us the appropriate way to get your book from your laptop
Tell you all.
to the bookshelf.
That's so funny.
So what you do is, apparently what I would do is, with my unedited manuscript, is I would just hang on to that one, so that when I am a best-selling author, then I go into the bookstore and say, here's the first draft.
Can you please sign
Would how much could you sell this for? That's probably not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
A few things would have to change in my life.
Take up writing.
I'd have to take up actual writing. Academic writing is kind of like actual writing, but with a different kind of purpose.
I took a whole separate class called Technically Write, so I could write, technical manuals.
Yeah.
Same.
I got into writing romance right after I finished my master's at the university, is because it was so much information. And then it's like, why don't I just write something that I don't have to footnote? Because it was so much, it's like academic writing is its own thing. And so maybe we should target to university students who are exhausted after writing their thesis. Do you want to write fiction? That's how I
already did. It's called my thesis.
But it's got footnotes, so
yeah, and they look so pretty on the shelf. Thesis.
Well, I think writing for a lot of people is kind of a means of escapism, and a means to kind of turn off the world, get away from the world, and be in a space where you can kind of control what's going on, but really kind of shift your brain from, particularly when you're a student, or if you have a really intellectually demanding profession, you can sort of switch gears and tap into that creative side of yourself and just let it, let it go, let just see where, where these ideas, manifest, and see if you can create a story with them and whatnot. And I think that's, it can be very liberating to exercise that part of your brain, as opposed to the part that's dealing with the facts and the numbers and making sure that, this idea relates to this idea and that it's supported with evidence from this area over here and things like that. So I think there are a lot of academics that, have a book in them somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
The parody of the work they did.
Yeah. Right, fan fiction off your own thesis.
Yeah.
I mean, it almost seems more fun. Yeah, he's already tempted, right?
Yeah.
I gotta get the first one done. I gotta get it done.
Get the real one done, then play with it.
Well, one of the things that we were talking about just before we came on the air here is just this idea that there are a lot of people that are out there that kind of have a book in them. Not just academics, but, like everywhere. There's a lot of people that, they think, well, I'd like to try writing, but I don't know where to begin. Or I've quietly been working on this little fantasy novel, in my basement for the last 5-7 years. And but I don't know what to do with, there's some people that'll have 500,000 words all written in one book, and they don't know what to do with it. That's one of the things that
hire an editor.
But that's something that that Wordbridge can help out with. Is coming to a conference like this allows you to sort of figure out, well, what's the next step, or if I have this idea, or if I have a memoir, I want to write about what's happened to me in my life, and but I'm thinking about maybe I could publish this because some people may find that those experiences valuable, and so there's stuff at this conference that will allow you to kind of take that step and go from someone who's just writing to someone who is now publishing and putting that work out there into the world.
Neat.
And all this for what, $40?
Yeah.
That's where I'm getting to.
40 tiny Canadian dollars.
Yeah. And they're Canadian dollars.
Full size Canadian dollars.
Yeah. Full size Canadian dollars for 2 days, the 12th and 13th of April.
Yeah.
Which is coming up right away, yeah?
Yeah.
2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
So, and I want to, from just practical standpoint, I value things based on movie money, right? What am I willing to spend for that 2 hours of entertainment?
Yeah.
So 2 days for movie money.
Days, yeah.
Yeah, 2 days for movie money, and you get to write your own adventure. It's literally choose your own adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
My adventure is romance. I wish that was
Romancing the Stone.
Yeah. That's about as lucky as I will get.
Did you want to talk about your presentation?
Yes, he does. He does now.
Well,
He's going to now.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about time management for writers. So one of the big challenges that I think a lot of writers have is that we all have day jobs. It's very rare to be a professional writer to the level where you're making a decent living off of the fiction that you're producing.
But we're gonna get there.
Yeah. A lot of people have that dream. So for some people that's not necessarily the dream, but writing takes a lot of time. It's very demanding in that sense. And to put together something like a novel, even 50,000 words, which would be a very short novel. That can take months to years. So it's a very sustained project, and you have to put the time in. And one of the big challenges that I think a lot of people face is if you're trying to, do this on a regular basis, how do you balance that with everything else that's going on in your life? If you're a parent, if you've got a demanding day job, if you've got, like pets that need exercise. You need to keep your house clean and generally take care of yourself. Balancing all of that is, it's extremely tricky. And, I mean, in the talk, I'm not going to
Don't give the talk now.
But it's not about, I mean, no one does this perfectly, like everyone struggles with this, but there's different techniques for, like setting goals and saying, okay, like, how do I break this very large project down into smaller achievable chunks so that I can make consistent progress towards it over a long period of time. So that's what I'm going to be talking about at the conference, and hopefully people will find it useful.
I like the idea of staying healthy overall.
Yeah, that's
because you have to be doing all of those things, or it might show in your work.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
absolutely. I often talk about writing as it's like running a marathon, except not, obviously you're not as sweaty and what
one hopes.
Well,
You're ready for romance.
Yeah, how intense is this scene? But it's a kind of a long-term thing. And yeah, like it's if you are like getting enough sleep and eating well and getting exercise and socializing and stuff like that, when you do have the opportunity to sit down and write, it's not like you just collapse and fall asleep at the keyboard. Although I have done that.
I have too.
It's
editing. Editing gets me.
Yeah.
Writing, I'm awake. Editing,
Yeah, but so
Grammarly.
if you look at all the other aspects of your life and try to figure out, okay, well, like I need to make sure that I'm taking care of those other things so that they're not pushing into like that dedicated writing time that you set aside for yourself.
I remember reading an afterword in, I'm going to say it was a Piers Anthony novel, and where he talks about his writing process and how he does not believe in writer's block. He just doesn't. You're a writer, you write. If you're a ditch digger, you dig ditches. You don't have ditch digger block.
Right.
You might not dig a very big ditch that day, but you go and you do the thing. You might not write very much, but you write. It's just do the thing. If you're going to, if that's and that's his day job, obviously, or was. I think he's still a going concern, but I don't know how much writing he does these days. But he's 8 hour. He puts in 8 hour days. Like gets up in the morning and he has his breakfast and then he goes to his office and he writes. And that was his choice for time management.
Right. And some people can do that. And like I think it's also important to remember that like there are some people that really struggle with doing something creative. They try and they want to, and sometimes it just happens to be the period in your life, right? Like when I had young children, right? Like like by the end of the day, you're pretty exhausted, and those times that you actually have to write can be very fleeting, and so you sit down and then you have someone saying, well, like you have to come to it every day. Well, if you don't write, like 50 words that day or, 1,000 words that day or whatever, it's not like the universe is going to say you're not a writer, right? Like, you can always come back to it. You can find that creativity.
Ditch digger doesn't work every day.
Right. Ditch diggers get weekends too.
Yeah. So like you can find that. And I mean, often when, the other aspects of your life kind of come into balance, then you can find that, that creative source again.
Yeah. Like I'm not a very sportsy kind of guy, but I took up playing ball hockey through work like once a week.
Right.
And I'd never played any kind of hockey before. I'm vaguely familiar with the rules of generally how hockey works, but I had none of the skills. And I just went and I did it. And I was terrible, but I did it. I was terrible and I did it.
Did you have fun?
Eventually I started having fun. But it was a thing that I thought I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to do something that would be social, that I wouldn't have to spend all day every day with these people, but together we would all be doing a thing that we enjoyed, and very supportive group. And I'm not saying that playing floor hockey in a pickup league at the Polytechnic is the same as being in a writers group, But it's the same as being in a writer's group.
Mhm.
You might be the newest of the newest writers. Like, you may never have thought about writing before, and you could come to this and meet somebody, and then they say, yeah, I remember the day when I was you.
I got a cleverly sports analogy for you. It was some dude's mixed martial arts campaign or whatever, but he said something very cool. He said, you might think the black belt is the hardest. He says, nope, it's the white belt. It's making the choice to put that on, to go in there, to get beat up, to show who you really are, to just find out who you are, to put yourself out there the first time. That's the hardest thing. It's not to be the perfect guy at the end of it. It's to start the process, right? It is the hardest obstacle to overcome, is to just decide, right?
Yeah.
I've done things that I wanted to do and I sucked at them, so I stopped doing them, right? But like, I'm glad I tried.
That's the thing with writing, is that you only get better. Like, when you look at your first, the first things you wrote, like, maybe they're not that great, but sometimes they are. But as you go, you learn. Like, and every week when I go to our writing group and I listen to other people read, you learn things. You learn how they express. I still remember 13 years ago, we had a member come and describe a bird on the beach. And the way she described it was so pretty that stuck with me 13 years later. And now I'm like obsessed with description now, because how well that she portrayed that in just a really short story that she shared. And we have an actual presentation on word painting, how to write more descriptively, just to throw that in there. It's all here.
I got one more tie back to what I do. We, as a theater group, ran a workshop on making characters. Two people that attended were writers. Because they wanted to learn a new way to develop a character.
Yeah.
Like, what's the human process of inventing a new character for acting like it? How is that different from imagining a character and writing about it? So I thought that was a really unique tool that they chose to use. And I wish I could follow up or remember who they were. Shelley, someone. Hi.
Hi, Shelley. Shelley, if that's you and you happen to be watching, get in touch. We'd like to know how that worked out for you.
Because for real, though, I mean, it just seemed like an interesting, like, they seemed to be like, I feel like that's the weak part of my game, so let's add a new tool to my character building kit. And I was just like, what are you bringing to us? Like, how do you build a character?
I think there are a lot of writers that really look at stage techniques for how to, for exactly that reason. There's an example. There's a book by Saul Stein on writing, not Stephen King's on writing, but another book, and he talks about this exercise that this theater group would do, where the director would give you have two characters, but you give the two characters separate instructions. So, and the whole point was about creating conflict. So the scene is, a parent is meeting with a principal in the office because of something the kid did. And then, offset, he'll tell the actor playing the principal, no matter what, you cannot expel this kid. Like, you need to make sure that he gets his education and, he stays in the program. But then he tells the other actor who's playing the parent, you have to get this kid expelled. Like, you will not accept anything else. And then brings them on stage and says, go. And the core of that was really to develop that, the conflict between these two characters. And so really, like, there's like the theater, the acting part of, how do we bring that out? But, underneath that, I think there's that level of how do we develop this conflict and, where do we go with it, particularly when we both have competing objectives, and it makes for a really interesting scene.
The storytelling aspect of the conflict, right? It's not just, oh, this is a conflict. It's, this is what makes that a conflict, right? Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. So we're just about winding down, you guys. Wondered if you had any key points that, like, obviously cool speakers.
Yeah, we have local, and they're all Alberta writers, speakers. I don't know. I'm excited for it every year. every year we try to make sure they're not the same speakers. So if you presented the year before, they're not presenting this year. So it's always fresh, you know, so you're not getting the same thing every year. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it a lot. Not just because I'm on the board, but
but because you were right.
I attended before. Yeah, but writing is, like I say, writing is like an isolating hobby job or whatever. But when you get to have these things every year, you kind of look forward to it every year, and you get to meet new people, meet people that you saw last year that, you know, you lost touch with, and you always come out with something new. You know, like a new idea that you can apply to your own books. So yeah, Saturday, April 12th and 13th at Casa. So it's right downtown.
How does somebody get a ticket or sign up or whatever?
We have a Facebook page, Wordbridge, Lethbridge's Writers Conference on Facebook. We have a website, which is really long.
You have a QR code?
We have a QR code.
Cool. Maybe we can attach that to our to our videos.
Maybe
as a comment afterwards.
Oh, yes.
And this year we have a shared author table. So authors that have books can sell their books there.
Ooh.
And so that's really cool. We have analog books will be set up. And I think there are 2 other tables there too. So you can, if you're like a souvenir buyer like me, they have things. We have T-shirts. We have Wordbridge T-shirts. So
you can also come to the conference if you are largely a reader and just interested in the process of how are books created, stories created. Yeah, exactly. There's the shared authors table, so there's lots of different local authors that will have books there that you can, and it's the opportunity not just to, you know, purchase the books, but to interact with the authors as well. They do signings, you know, like you can probably find them at the conference. Do we have a signing period this year?
No,
in the past we've had that, but
you just got to corner someone in the fancy lounge.
Yes, in the upstairs.
It encourages the engagement. I like it.
Yeah.
yeah. So it's an opportunity to come out if you have a local author that, you know, you'd like to talk to or whatnot. This might be the place to find them.
It's funny, the pen name thing. I know that I don't know the real name, but Lemony Snicket was in town to do book signings, but was only advertised by real name, and so nobody really knew.
Oh, right.
So there was like, you're supposed to pre-book so that you could be there, and my daughter just sort of showed up, and they're like, well, as long as we don't fill up with the pre-booked people. They did not. It's remained largely empty because it just went under real name instead of pen name.
Yeah,
words of caution. Words of caution.
I tried to choose a pen name, but Schaefer sued me. They're a pen manufacturing company.
It's okay. I caught it for you. I have a weird sense of trivial knowledge.
What's the funniest joke in the world?
Ask me what the most important part about telling a joke is. Go ahead and ask me. Ask me.
What's the most
timing? And with that, speaking of timing, it's the end of the hour.
The hour, you guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mandy Michelle, Charles K. James.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about Wordbridge.
Yeah.
I think this is a fine example, though, of the think global and act local. This is definitely something that could happen in your community. Give it a thought, folks.
Reach out. Maybe you can coordinate with this group.
They've already got 13 years of hammering at this stuff. Okay, like 7 on this event and 13 on the reading thing. But they've got experience. Get help. Do this stuff. Do the thing.
Yeah. Thanks again for tuning in. We are How Did You Get There? And we'll be back in a fortnight with
something else.
We have an interesting project in a fortnight.
Doing the news.
And we're gonna do some news.
That's right. It's gonna be fun. Thanks for coming. Everybody wave.
And now we just talk awkwardly amongst ourselves because Jess might not be paying attention.
We're still going, though. We're still going. Don't be deceived.
All right.
Yeah, wait, let's get the picture. I keep forgetting the picture.
I was thinking of like a neologism conference. 2 words colliding.
Mm.
No.
Because neologism is where you like make a new word out of
Oh,
something. It's
okay.
like two
Right.
words colliding.
Well, what do they call it in Calgary again? Collision of words?
Yeah, when
Yeah.
words collide.
When words collide.
Word bridge. So we got the Lethbridge in there.
See, I got that. I got that.
Also, we could just smile into the camera. Quit blocking my face.
Oh, sorry.
Hey!
Where
Yeah.
does the sun go? Oh, he's still there. It is.
Yep.
Yay.
Yay! And we're still live, so.
Yeah, kinda. We're at least on the.
Is there anything else you wanted to say?
So like,
I think we said it.
We'll actually get a when we're finally off the air. We'll actually get a shot and we'll do the.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you can share that on your page and we
Yeah.
can share that on our
Yeah.
page. And
Yeah, no, that's awesome.